Aloha everyone, David Tatera here again with CryptoTutorials.org. Today we're going to talk about something a little different. Something you might consider a conspiracy theory. Something you may not have ever really considered, but it's an interesting one. The idea is Satoshi Nakamoto, is the creator of Bitcoin really the Central Intelligence Agency, the deep state, the NSA, big government, whatever you want to call it? So it's an interesting question. I've been doing some research. I've read some really interesting papers, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited to share with you what I found. Do me a huge favor. Click below on the like button and let YouTube know that you are a fan of this video. Let them know that you appreciate the research and the work that I have done. Click on the subscribe button if you want to find out more exciting and interesting ones. And then please feel free to leave me a comment. I know that this is going to stir some people up. Some people are going to be, vehemently opposed to it. No, it can't be. And others are going to be like, it's definitely. So please give me your comment. Let me know what you think. Show me any research that you have. I'm very interested to learn more about this subject because it's obviously, for any of us in crypto, something pretty significant to think about. All right, let's dive right on in. Warning, I am not a financial advisor and this is not investment advice. Seek a professional. The idea that cryptocurrency could really be a project of big government, that it could really be something of the deep state and not a libertarian, utopian, freedom-creating technology, but actually something being used for far more sinister things and for control. Well, that's something Jason and I had always joked around, my business partner, about ever since we both became involved in crypto. And for obvious reasons, it makes perfect sense. If you wanted to funnel black market money, it's a great mechanism for funneling black market money. Well, Iran-Contra, pretty much any war the U.S. has been involved in, covert ops overseas, we funnel a lot of black market money as a government. What crypto really does is to make cash more trackable. And a lot of people saw this as, oh my gosh, I can pay online with basically cash, with something that can't be tracked. Yay, but really what we did was we made cash more trackable. It would be far harder to follow drug money across borders when it's being moved inside of, submarines and it's paper currency. But now if those same people start to trust this system called Bitcoin, that it's secretive, it's become a whole lot easier to actually track. It turns out we can see a lot more. And whether it was the Colonial Pipeline or the Silk Road, all of these sort of things have led people to wonder, something, this supposedly, anonymous thing really isn't that anonymous. People get found all over the place and arrested and things for transactions that took place on Bitcoin. So if you were going to do this kind of a project, Bitcoin is in many ways the perfect way to do it, and now as these central bank digital currencies seem to be being talked about by China, by the US, and this idea, what a great way to get us adopted and brought into this system of it, to make us think that we're all being the rebels and we're out there changing the world when really we're just following their plan, exactly what they wanted from day one. Until I saw a recent article though by Crypto Whale, all of this just seemed like an interesting theory and kind of a conjecture, something that we just tossed around and when we were talking about other subjects and never put a lot of energy or time into it. But I read that article by Crypto Whale and it really had some points that, it opened a rabbit hole, and I went deep down the rabbit hole and I found some really, really interesting things. So I'm going to share all of them with you. Coming right up. I hope you'll stick with me till the end of the video. You'll learn a lot. Please, like I said, comment, let me know what you think about this. I want everybody's opinion. I think this is a subject that we need to be discussing, the crypto world. We don't need to ignore it. We need to be realistic and ask ourselves the question, is there a chance we're really getting hoodwinked? But before we dive too deep, I do want to let you guys know we're still offering the $97 Airdrop Masterclass totally free right now. I'm going to leave a link down below. That's the web address. Go to getmyfreecrypto.com. It'll link you right through and just let us know where you want us to send the course links. If you don't know, this course is going to teach you how to get 100% totally free crypto. I'm not talking about some scam token either. I just got Blockto, which isn't even out yet. And when it comes out, this is the only mobile wallet that's going to be hosting Flow. If you don't know, Flow is is what MotoGPX, what the NBA Top Shot program. Some of the biggest NFTs out there are being hosted on Flow. And I've got some of this token, $200, totally free crypto airdrop. There's tons of them. They're going on all the time. There's also tons of scams. So you got to be careful. Take a minute. Go to getmyfreecrypto.com and sign up for that Airdrop Masterclass. You won't regret it. So why would the NSA or the CIA, the federal government, go through the trouble of creating a cryptocurrency, putting it out there to the world? It seems kind of backwards, but if this is something that they saw as inevitable, that it was coming, it also makes a lot of sense. If you were going to do that, you would probably put some back doors into it, some things that would give you extra control that wasn't available for other people, some ways to access the information. It would also give you a way to track and monitor things that literally just weren't available anywhere else. I mean, when the Silk Road was busted, there were an awful lot of people who had been dealing drugs for a long time and had been below the surface and nobody noticed them, who became very apparent to our government. So as an advantage, huge. They got an enormous list of IP addresses for people who thought they were secure that really weren't. And lastly, if you were trying to put together a list of government dissenters, people who maybe aren't big fans of government, who might be a little bit on the libertarian anarchist spectrum, you're probably going to use crypto, because that's a great way to find them. The early adopters of crypto, the cypherpunks, these are people who very openly and very honestly were against big government. So kind of an important demographic to find. Outlined a little bit of the case for why CIA, NSA, the central government might want to control and build cryptocurrency. But that's not the same thing as actually doing it. So now I'm going to look at 8 major reasons, yes, 8 different reasons why I believe there's a reasonable chance that they actually did do this, that they really are the ones who created this. So first one we're going to look at is the Colonial Pipeline. So if you're not familiar with this story, it came out about a month ago. $4.4 million was paid by the Colonial Pipeline Company to get their gas flowing on the east coast of the United States.
John, I can confirm that Colonial Pipeline did in fact pay a ransom. This according to a source familiar with the situation. Colonial Pipeline paying a ransom to the criminal hackers who shut down their systems last week.
Paid it, the ransomware in Bitcoin to the hackers, and within a month, by I think June 7th or June 8th, the FBI had recovered that money. Immediately, this sent some shocks into cryptos. Everybody was worried that the cipher had been cracked, that something didn't make sense here. And then the FBI came out and released a nice big explanatory one-page statement, gave no Q&A on it, and simply said that the hackers had moved their money into a crypto exchange wallet in California, and the FBI had seized it. Now, anybody in crypto knows that an exchange wallet is basically the same as a bank, total access to it. And if you're, most of the evidence shows that these people were Eastern European. If you're Eastern European, why are you going to move it into an account in California? Boy, that seems to be putting it right out in the open, ready to be taken from it. Something about this story just does not fit together right. And that's one of the first reasons that made me really start questioning whether maybe someone else does have access to information on the crypto that you don't know about. So the next one takes us back a little bit further. Number 2 goes all the way back to 2013. And I'm talking there about the NSA papers that were leaked by whistleblower Edward Snowden. Now, I read these at the time, or parts of them at the time, and was familiar with them, but I never noticed a section on them that's about Bitcoin specifically. And in fact, this specific section talks about some U.S. government NSA programs that were used to figure out the IP addresses, the billing zip codes, all this information for Bitcoin users. If you know the IP and the zip code, you can figure out who someone is. It's not that complicated at that point.
Unfortunately, the Bitcoin network as it exists does not provide the privacy protections really necessary for these kind of transactions at scale. And I think it should, and it could, and it's clear to me that the developers realized this should be done for whatever reason. However, when we're talking about Bitcoin improvement proposals, they haven't actually moved to do this, which is puzzling to me because now they've had years to do it.
In particular, they talked about two programs, Oak Star domestically, and then Money Rocket, which was developed to be used overseas, that were used for the spying. And these got an enormous amount of data that they could then connect to people's Bitcoin addresses. Basically, these were a big bait and switch. So they brought you in showing you this software that they said was going to help you with privacy and help keep you anonymous using your Bitcoins. Well, little did you know the NSA was actually the ones who developed the software, who stuck it out there for you to download, and what you thought was anonymous and safe was actually sending all of your information directly to the NSA. So they seem to have had a hand in Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related information pretty early on, which is definitely suspicious. Now, the third item on our list, this one makes me even more suspicious of the NSA, and this is going back to SHA 256. If you're not familiar, that is the official title of the hashing algorithm that is used by Bitcoin. So the secure hashing algorithm, this is one of the keys to Bitcoin structure. Basically what it does is it takes any string of characters, numbers, letters, whatever, and completely scrambles them in a way that cannot be reverse engineered. You could put your address in and get an indecipherable long string of characters. And if you were to change one letter in your address that you entered, you'd get a completely different string of characters. It can't be reverse engineered. It's a one-way street. And it's key to keeping everything secure and secret on Bitcoin. Oh, and who made this fantastic, amazing, useful software that was an integral part of Bitcoin? The NSA. Yeah, that's right. That actually was developed entirely by the NSA. Internally. And so, is it possible that they put a backdoor in it? Is it possible that they put something in there that allows them to access information no one else can? Yeah, you have to think it is entirely possible. And it's not like the NSA has a history of messing with, cryptographic technologies. Or do they? Number 4 on our list are some documents that come from the U.S. Army's Cyber Protection Brigade. These were leaked back in 2017, and they detail a relationship between this division and the NSA. The purpose of this relationship was to break through some cryptographic puzzles. They particularly went after the Tor browser, which is what the dark web is built upon, and it's supposed to be this browser that completely hides what you're doing with it. And then virtual private networks, which are location hiding. They're supposed to hide where you are and where you're working from so that you can't be tracked. And they were able to track down and break through these puzzles, which leads you to wonder, what else are they able to do and what technology are they actually using to do this? That's the hardest part. Nobody's being really specific, but they seem to have some powers that are beyond what they're supposed to be able to do. Next up at number 5 is a big one. We're going to talk about Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. So obviously the whole subject of this is really to say, is Satoshi the person he claims to be? So fundamentally you need to kind of look at who he claims to be. He claims to be a Japanese male who invented this himself, posted some posts on different boards, was involved in the early days of Bitcoin and that, and then all of a sudden just vanished and has never moved the Bitcoins. Left them in the wallets they were originally in, and everything just stayed where it was. Really unusual story. You don't find this in any other major technology project, probably since Stonehenge. I mean, you have to look that far back to find something where we don't really know who created it. In every other major invention, technology over time, usually people are clamoring and fighting to claim creatorship of this. This person is hiding. And along with hiding, has just pocketed away this money, which is extremely bizarre because there was no reason to believe that this person was wealthy prior to inventing Bitcoin. So to have not enjoyed that wealth, also extremely unusual. Then on top of it comes his sort of disappearance, if you'll call it that. He posted the last few messages, sent the last couple emails, and just said, I'm hanging out, I'm taking off to do other projects, you guys won't hear from me again. Very unusual. But as number 2, Greg Andreessen also had a more unusual exit. See, Greg was still in contact somewhat with Satoshi until right before he went and made a visit to the Central Intelligence Agency. Immediately afterwards, he got his last messages from Satoshi saying he was vanishing, and that was it, which is extremely unusual. Why did this particular visit to the CIA suddenly prompt him to go dark, to go offline? And then lastly, just for good measure, is the actual name itself, Satoshi Nakamoto. So if you do a little research, the name Satoshi in Japanese is quick or intelligent. And the name Nakamoto means middle or center. So the name Satoshi Nakamoto could be read to mean central intelligence. I don't know. It's unusual. It's kind of quirky. It might mean absolutely nothing. But it could be someone who's really trying to give a hint and let the world know what this particular technology is and to be careful. So it's enough to be worth, asking the question. Number 6 on our list is a private company known as Crypto AG. So the origins of this company, Crypto AG, date all the way back to the end of World War II. It was a Swiss-German partnership, and for the next 75 years, hundreds of countries around the globe trusted Crypto AG to help keep their communications secure. They were a cryptography company, started with mechanical devices, moved on to some electronics, onto silicon chips and software. But this company's job was to keep communications secure for governments, for diplomats, high-ranking officers, and hundreds of countries around the globe trusted them to do this. Until recently, when it was discovered that they were actually a shell corporation of the CIA. They were owned by the Central Intelligence Agency. That's right.
We now turn to what may be one of the Central Intelligence Agency's most far-reaching projects ever. Now get this, for decades, United States enemies and allies alike have used the company Crypto AG to help send encrypted messages within its country. Now the firm is Swiss and it made millions of dollars selling to over 120 countries. But, and this is a huge but, according to a new report in the Washington Post, it was secretly owned by the CIA and West German intelligence. And the two agencies were able to easily get into these messages to track events such as the Iran hostage crisis and the assassination of South American leaders.
The CIA all along was putting backdoors in every bit of this cryptos, making it completely easy for them to read this secret communications. We were literally selling people a way to encrypt their data with a backdoor built into it that let the CIA read that data. As though that's not big enough, more recently some big questions have come out with Kaspersky, the Russian antivirus company, one of the largest antivirus companies. There's questions as to whether they're actually spying on us. Huawei, the Chinese telecom giant, big debates as to whether we should let them put their equipment in, as to whether there's actual spy devices built into the hardware of 5G networks, things such as that. It just leads you to believe that all of these companies are in bed with some form of a government and are building backdoors into these protocols. If the CIA and the Chinese military and the Russian military will go to this extent, is it really that big of a stretch to believe that they would invent Bitcoin and use it as a way to get more information? Number 7 on our list comes back to a pretty simple question. Just basically, who owns the largest wallet of Bitcoins on the planet? No, it turns out it's not Satoshi. She, it, they are the largest owner, but that is spread across countless wallets, small wallets all over the place. Largest single wallet holder is the FBI. That's right. Back when they busted the Silk Road, the FBI took hold of 150,000 Bitcoins at the time, and believed to be closer to about 500, maybe even closer to 1 million Bitcoins at this point from other acquisitions that they've made of additional dark web and nefarious organizations. And that's kind of unusual, for the FBI to hold on to so much. They're not selling them, they're not moving them, and they can do whatever they want with them at this point. So Very useful tool. The FBI can do a lot of different things with them. More useful than cash to them. More useful than almost any other form of currency to them. How did they get to this point? It's an interesting question. Which leads us to our last item, number 8. And this is the biggest one of them all for me. This is the news that's been coming out almost daily lately. And that is about central bank digital currencies. That's right, the BIS, which is the central bank of central banks. It's the one that kind of tells the rest of the central banks of the world how to behave and operate. Just this week came out with a whole bunch of new protocols approving of central bank digital currencies with a caveat. They want to use the new forms of electronic identification. And that means fingerprints, eye retinal scans, digital chips in cards, all of this to access your central bank digital currency. So the next time that you want to get your stimulus check, well, they're going to send it out in central bank digital currency. And you better have your special ID or you don't get your money. Now, this is the kind of stuff that if they had come along with this idea and tried to pitch it to America and tried to pitch it to the libertarians of the world, there is no way any of us would have signed up for their central bank digital currency, would have signed up for their ID. We would have all run and hid and been far, far away from this. But by bringing this in as a grassroots idea, by selling it to us as a way to create more freedom, a way to be off the grid, a way to stay away from the man, they may very well have created a backdoor that allows them to get everybody on board with what they wanted all along, a central, controllable digital currency. So keep an eye out. This is one that I think is developing over the next months and years and has got some serious implications. You know, a few countries have already jumped on board. The Bahamas has their sand dollar. France, Switzerland, China are all testing central bank digital currencies. The US is looking into it already. So very much keep an eye out. Central bank digital currencies are something to be concerned about because they are the back door from Bitcoin into more control. All right. Well, thank you guys. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you stuck with me to the end here. I know there's a lot of good information in there and a lot of interesting information. Please comment down below if you agree, if you disagree, if you want me to look into any part of this more. Do smash that like button. Do smash that subscribe button. They help out tremendously getting this video out there so that more people can see it, so that more people can talk about it, and so that hopefully we can dig in and figure out the real answer. Is Satoshi Nakamoto really the deep state? Big government, the NSA, all just coming to try to find a way to get our money. All right, thank you guys again. Aloha.